Okay, I'm going to be doing my video blog number one. This is about modules 1 and 2. So I want to start off talking about how module 1 was able to allow me to give an understanding of what global competency is. I love Rimmer's definition, pointing out that we need knowledge and skills and a attitude that fosters positive and respectful and peaceful interactions with other humans throughout countries, races, ethnicities, and throughout the world in general. A framework that I really connected with was the core concepts framework. This framework focused on values, attitudes, behaviors, and skills. And I think these are three values and attitudes are put together. I think this was three aspects of culture that are very important. We need to know the value of the culture. We need to know how to have an attitude, a positive attitude toward that culture. We need to know the behaviors and how to behave towards that culture. And we need to know the skills and the knowledge that it takes to understand and really connect with that culture. And so the core concepts framework was something that I think went positively with Rimmer's definition, because both of them talk about knowledge and skills and having that attitude that's a positive, peaceful, respectful attitude. For Module 2, I learned about two specific things that made a huge impact on me. The Preparing Our Youth for an Inclusive and Sustainable World article from the OECD program talked about culture and kind of defined it in many different ways. And this was important because I've never looked at culture as more than one definition, or described as more than one way. This just piece of that article allowed me to understand that there are many different subcultures within one culture. In Module 2, I was able to describe it as a culture within a culture. And that kind of excites me because we don't have to individualize one person for one specific category of a culture. They're not represented by their faith only. They're not represented by their ethnicity only. They can be represented in two different culture groups based off of their ethnicity and their race, or their race and their faith. And I think that's awesome to see, because it shows that we have similarities with people that are in completely different lifestyles, completely different regions of the world, and that kind of brings us together as a world. It kind of defines the melting pot. We're a world made up of different people, different cultures, and at the end of the day, we're still able to connect with these different people and cultures in at least one different way. So that was pretty cool for me. The second thing I learned from Module 2 was what sympathy and empathy actually means. Dr. Brown did a great job defining these two terms. Because when we think of those two words, I know I think of those two words as expressing your feelings to someone, trying to get someone to know that you understand what they're going through. But Dr. Brown said specifically in her video that empathy fuels connection. And when you think about it, empathy is something that allows you to make a personal commitment. And that's important for a teacher to know in the classroom, because you need to connect with your students on a personal level. And Dr. Brown also describes sympathy as something that drives disconnection. And that just means that you're not willing to make that personal connection with that person. A lot of times I find myself telling my students, oh, it's going to be okay. I understand that was a hard test, but we don't really ever connect on a level and, discuss, why was that test hard for you? Or, why do you feel this way? I want to understand why you feel this way. And so that was something that Dr. Brown allowed me to kind of get a better understanding and grasp of what those two words mean, and that they don't mean the same thing. For the assessment part of the module, for turning in our blog, there was 3 assessments listed. I decided to take all of the assessments just to see if one would come out one way and another one would say something different about me or my classroom. But it was very evident that they all showed the exact same findings. I'm going to use the SMART breakdown to describe what I found in those those 3 assessments. So for the S, it showed me that I need to improve on my teaching skills, incorporating global opportunities in my classroom. As a first year, I have not been taught how to incorporate globalization in my classroom. I don't know what tools it takes. I don't know the resources I can use. And so that's something that I need to improve in my classroom and within myself, is to kind of find those professional development opportunities to improve my skills as a teacher. For the M, it was clear that I need to educate myself on multiple cultures and multiple ways to include environmental aspects in my classroom. If I'm able to understand why cultures do what they do and what cultures do what they do, and I'm able to gain those personal experiences, I can then bring that into my classroom and model that for my students and share my personal experiences so they can not only hear about them and learn from them, but know that they're capable of having those personal experiences as well. For the A aspect of the SMART breakdown, I found that I could use technology as one of the elements in my classroom to provide that personal experience. Some of my students don't have the opportunity to venture out and experience different norms or view different cultures. And so technology is a way that I can bring those aspects into my classroom. I touched on 360 technology and virtual reality in Module 2, and both of those are great resources that I've learned that will allow me to bring culture into my classroom and for students to personally connect by visualization. And so that's something that I want to try to do in my further experiences in the classroom. After the results of the Global Competent Learning Continuum, it was evident that I need to bring knowledge and experience with culture to my classroom. And it showed me that that all starts with me. If I'm educated, if I have personal experiences to talk about and describe, then my students will be able to connect and learn and understand the importance of knowing these topics. But if I don't have that, then how can I teach it? So the result was I need to better my education on global affairs and multiculturals. So that was something that I learned that was pretty interesting to me, that I kind of had an idea about, but it really showed itself in those assessments. The last part of the SMART breakdown was time, and I think it's timely that I do this. My school year's ending now, so I'll start my next school year in July. So I have a good amount of time to educate myself on different cultures and different resources to integrate culture and globalization within my classroom. And I think this gives me and provides me with a great opportunity to start off the year next year incorporating these tools in my classroom so that my instruction is globalized on a level that my students can understand and connect with. Some strengths that I have: I'm open-minded. I'm not afraid to test things, even if I know they're going to fail. I'm willing to push myself to provide the best for my students. If it puts me in an uncomfortable situation, if I know my students are going to succeed and they're going to improve from those situations, I'll continue to push myself no matter how uncomfortable it is. And a goal that I have is to provide a realistic amount of opportunities for my students to partake and experience with culture and globalization. We're not perfect. We're not going to be able to do it every day, every second, but we can implement it here and there. And it starts with a little baby steps, and my goal is to start with the baby steps and progress to longer strides. And so that's what I've learned and I've taken from modules 1 and 2. And I hope you liked it. Thanks.